yourself to perpetual dissatisfaction. But there's another possibility. What if you can't stop thinking about them because they actually matter? What if they were a turning point in your life, a moment of clarity disguised as another ordinary day? Sometimes people enter our lives and serve as catalysts. They ignite something in us. They challenge our world view, break through our emotional defenses, and call us to become more than we are. That doesn't mean they're your soulmate or your destiny. It means they are significant. They have become an archetype in your story, representing growth, risk, pain, or even redemption, and that matters. But let's go even deeper. If you can't stop thinking about someone, you have to ask yourself, what am I really yearning for? Is it the person, or is it the way they made me feel? Because often it's not them. It's what they reflected back to you. Perhaps they made you feel seen, heard, understood. And now, in their absence, you're grieving not just the loss of connection, but the loss of a version of yourself that only existed in their presence. That's a hard truth, but it's one you must face if you ever want peace. You have to examine your thoughts critically, like a detective piecing together a case. Where does the pattern begin? What do you feel when you think of them? Is it regret? Is it longing? Is it shame? Is it love? Or is it a mixture of all of those things, swirling around in a cocktail of psychological ambiguity? And then ask yourself, what would resolution look like? Not fantasy, resolution, because those are not the same. Fantasy is the illusion that everything would be perfect if only they were here. Resolution is the courage to confront your emotions, understand their roots, and act with integrity, whether that means reaching out, letting go, or simply learning the lesson they were meant to teach you. And there is always a lesson. Perhaps the most painful lesson of all is this: some people will leave your life, and it will never make perfect sense. They will disappear with parts of your story unfinished, and no matter how many times you replay it, you won't find the conclusion you crave. That is the nature of life. It is tragic. It is incomplete. And that's what makes it meaningful. You have to come to terms with the idea that closure is often internal. That person may never return. They may never explain themselves. But you can still heal. You can still grow. You can still integrate their impact into your life without allowing it to control you. And here's where things become serious, because the danger is not in the thinking, it's in the dwelling. Thought becomes suffering when it turns into obsession, when it hijacks your ability to function, to connect, to live. At that point, you're not remembering, you're clinging, and that is not love, that is not healing. That is fear masquerading as attachment. So the question becomes, are you thinking about this person because they matter, or because you're afraid of what life looks like without them? There is a difference between love and possession, between memory and fixation, between grief and stagnation. If you can't stop thinking about someone, use that as a signal, a call to introspection, a map to the deeper chambers of your soul. What do they represent? What wound are they illuminating? What truth are they pointing toward that you've refused to acknowledge? Because ultimately, this isn't just about them. It's about you, your history, your desires, your shadow, your unfinished business. They are simply the mirror, and mirrors, as painful as they can be, are necessary if you want to become whole. So what should you do? First, allow the thoughts. Don't fight them. Fighting your thoughts only makes them stronger, but don't indulge them either. Observe, reflect, and write. Writing is the most powerful tool you have to externalize the storm inside your mind. Get it on paper. Not to romanticize it, not to wallow, but to understand. Because once you understand, you regain your power. Second, reclaim your agency. This person may have influenced your thoughts, but they do not own them. You are still responsible for how you respond. Choose to act in ways that honor your growth. Seek meaning, not fantasy. Seek healing, not escape. Third, talk to someone, a trusted friend, a counselor, a guide. We are not meant to navigate the labyrinth of our emotions alone. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the path to truth. and truth is the foundation of freedom. Lastly, forgive yourself for loving, for hoping, for hurting. That is what it means to be alive. That is what it means to be human. You don't have to carry shame for your depth of feeling. You just have to be willing to transform it, to let it shape you into someone wiser, more grounded, more resilient. So if you can't stop thinking about someone, take it seriously, not as a curse, not as a glitch, but as a message. Something inside you is calling for attention. Honor that call, follow it to its root. And then do the hardest thing of all. Let go of what you wanted to happen, and make peace with what did, because in the end, the mind clings to what the soul has not yet accepted, and when acceptance finally arrives, not forced but earned, the thoughts will no longer haunt you. They will visit like old friends, bearing gifts of memory and meaning, and you will be able to smile, not because it didn't matter, but because it did, and you survived, and you grew, and you became, and in that becoming, you will find the quiet strength that once felt so distant. You'll walk through days no longer weighed down by the ache of yesterday, but illuminated by the lessons it carved into you. The person you couldn't stop thinking about. They shaped you, yes, but they do not define you. You define you, the depth of your reflection, the courage with which you faced your emotions, the discipline to move forward despite the weight. These are the marks of transformation. The thoughts may still surface from time to time, and when they do, they won't derail you. They'll remind you that you are capable of deep feeling, of real connection, of profound growth. There is dignity in loving fully, even when it doesn't end the way you hoped. There is strength in remembering, not as a prisoner of the past, but as a steward of its wisdom. If you can't stop thinking about someone, let it not break you, let it build you, let it lead you back to yourself, because in the silence that follows acceptance, you'll discover something even more powerful than thought, peace. And in peace, you will finally breathe again, not to forget, but to live. And so you sit with the silence, the echoes of their voice still lingering somewhere in the corners of your mind. It's strange how someone can leave physically, yet remain so powerfully within you. They're gone, but not really, because their presence doesn't exist just in time and space. It exists in memory, in meaning, in emotion. That's what makes it hard. You can't walk away from a memory the same way you walk away from a person. You can't shut down your thoughts like a door. They remain, they loop. And every time you think you've found the end of it, something pulls you back in, and maybe it's not even them you're missing. Maybe it's what they stirred inside of you. The laughter that felt unforced. The conversations that made you feel like someone finally understood. The hope they brought when you didn't even know you were starving for it. They didn't just step into your life. They awakened something dormant. And that awakening, however fleeting, gave you a glimpse of who you were when your guard was down, when your heart was open, when you were most alive. That's hard to forget. That's hard to let go of. And maybe that's why you're still thinking. But here's a brutal truth. Just because someone awakens you doesn't mean they're meant to stay. Some people are sent to crack you open, not to heal you, not to stay forever, but to show you what exists beneath the surface of your carefully controlled life. They press against the edges of your identity, challenge your comfort, and trigger your fears, not because they're cruel, but because their presence collides with the places you've avoided in yourself. And instead of running, instead of numbing, you stayed, you felt, you let it move through you, and that, as painful as it may be, is a rare kind of courage. Now you're left with the aftershock. You're left with the questions that don't have easy answers. What did it mean? Did they feel the same? Was it ever real? You replay the moments like a detective looking for clues, for inconsistencies, for signs you missed. But memory is a slippery thing. It shapes itself around emotion. It distorts, it highlights what you want to see and buries what you're not ready to confront. So you have to be honest, radically honest, not about them, but about you, about what you needed, about what you feared, about what you were trying to fix through them that was never their responsibility to carry. Because sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about is just a symbol, a placeholder. They become the face of a deeper longing, the desire to be loved, seen, chosen. And if you've never really had that, if you've been neglected, betrayed, dismissed, then even a small gesture of affection can feel like salvation. They smiled at you when you felt invisible. They listened when you were breaking. They made you feel something when you thought that part of you was long dead. And now, in their absence, the silence screams louder than the noise ever did. But don't let nostalgia deceive you. Don't confuse emotional intensity with compatibility. Just because it was powerful doesn't mean it was healthy. Just because you felt alive doesn't mean they were the right person. Your brain, especially when hurt or uncertain, tends to romanticize the past. It turns people into myths, and myths are harder to release than memories. They're crafted with imagination, fed by hope, and protected by fear. The fear that maybe you won't feel that way again. The fear that maybe they were your only chance. The fear that letting go means starting over, uncertain, vulnerable, alone. But you are not broken for feeling this deeply. You are not weak for caring this long. It just means that what happened mattered. It mattered to you, and that's enough to honor the experience without idolizing the person. You're allowed to grieve, you're allowed to remember, but you're not meant to live there. Your life cannot be paused in service of a moment that no longer exists. Your growth requires movement, not stagnation, and that means choosing deliberately to return to yourself. Not the version of you they saw, but the version of you who is learning to stand alone. And standing alone doesn't mean closing yourself off. It doesn't mean becoming cold or numb or indifferent. It means rooting your worth in something internal, something stable, something not dependent on someone else's presence or attention. You are not lovable because they noticed you. You are lovable because you exist, because you breathe, because you have depth and courage and insight, and the willingness to love again even after pain. That's what makes you resilient. That's what makes you whole. Not perfection, not avoidance, but the willingness to feel, to learn, and to continue becoming. Sometimes you will relapse. You'll hear a song, smell a scent, pass a place, and it will all come rushing back. And for a moment, you'll forget everything you've healed. You'll miss them like it's day one. That's okay. Healing is not linear. Memory does not follow logic. But each time you feel that pull and still choose not to reach out, not to retreat, not to spiral, you are reclaiming yourself. You are proving to your nervous system that you are safe now, that you don't need the past to survive, that your heart can beat on its own. You don't owe them a message. You don't need one last conversation. You don't need their permission to move forward. Closure is a self-given gift, and sometimes the most powerful closure you can create is the life you build without them, not to spite them, not to prove anything, but because you deserve peace, you deserve freedom, you deserve a mind that doesn't wake you in the middle of the night with questions that have no answers. You deserve a heart that feels full not because someone else is filling it, but because you learned how to fill it yourself. So what now? You live fully, honestly, intentionally. You pour your attention into the things and people that reflect your values, not just your feelings. You pursue meaning, not just comfort. You stop chasing ghosts and start building roots. And slowly, the obsession fades. The memories lose their sharpness. The thoughts become quieter, not because you've forgotten, but because you've grown, and that person, they may still cross your mind, but they no longer control your mind. That's the difference. That's healing. That's freedom. And freedom isn't the absence of memory. It's the presence of peace. It's knowing you can remember someone without needing them. It's feeling something deeply without letting it consume you. It's standing in the aftermath and saying, yes, this mattered. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I loved, and still, I choose life. That's what it means to truly move forward. Not with bitterness, not with denial, but with wisdom, grace, and unwavering self-respect. Because in the end, the thoughts that once overwhelmed you become chapters in a story, not the whole book. And the person you couldn't stop thinking about becomes a character, not the author. You're the one holding the pen now, and there's so much more story left to write. So if you find yourself unable to stop thinking about someone, understand that this is not a random glitch in your system. It is a profound signal from within. It is your psyche, your spirit, alerting you to something unfinished, something meaningful, something that demands your attention not to torment you, but to teach you. It may be about love, about regret, about potential, or about a deeper truth you've long avoided. Whatever the reason, the thoughts are not your enemy. They are your invitation, an invitation to grow, to face your vulnerability with honesty, and to ask difficult questions about who you are and who you are becoming. But you must not stay stuck in the thought. You must not let memory become a cage. Let it be a mirror, a mentor, a map, but not a master.